okay? Because Vitaly's a sniper, all right? He wants that range. He wants that distance. He wants to pick you apart before you get close. And Alizhan is like a clinch fighter, okay? He's trying to close that distance. He wants to get chest to chest, all right, and make that match ugly. Well. The left-handed match of the century. Alizhan, the Giant Slayer Muratov versus Vitaly, the Conqueror of Thailand, Laletin. And being a left-handed puller, this matchup has been living rent-free in my head ever since it was announced. And the more I look at it, the more I think this might be one of the cleanest style clashes that we've seen in modern arm wrestling. On one side, you have Vitaly, a man considered impossible to hook, long lever, huge hand, insane back pressure, that locked pronation, and a terrifying high posting style that makes you feel like you're just chasing his hand before the match even starts. And on the other side, you have Alizhan, a man almost impossible to top roll once he gets connected. His cup is ridiculous. His wrist flexion is out of this world. And once he gets that shoulder behind his arm, it feels like the whole match just gets dragged right into his world. So this is a connection versus separation battle, cup versus climb, hook versus height, distance versus contact, and that is why I think this match is so interesting. So first, let's talk about Vitaly. Okay, Vitaly's greatest weapon, in my opinion, is not his power. Okay, not just his power. Let's say it's his geometry. All right, his hand is so high, his arm is so long, and his posting pressure is so extreme that he forces guys to fight him from a terrible position. He wants you extended, okay? He wants your fingers exposed, and he wants your wrist under pressure before you get a chance to connect to your power. So that right there is the problem. When Vitaly wins height, you're not just arm wrestling his hand, okay? You're arm wrestling his entire lever, and that lever is pretty disgusting. So let's look at his match versus Devin. Okay, this is his last left-handed match that we saw, and there was something that really caught my attention in this match, and that is when Devin gets meaningful pressure into Vitaly's hand. Okay, we see something interesting. All right, so this is slowed down. This is round one. Boom. So we see the hit, and if you look right here, Vitaly's wrist is exposed. It's bent. It's broken. And there's been a lot of discussion about Vitaly's wrist in some recent podcast. But I'm not here to say that Vitaly has a weak wrist, okay? He's the number one left-handed arm wrestler for a reason. And what I'm saying is that Devin showed us something important. If you can get meaningful pressure into Vitaly's hand, there is a path. And that's exactly why I think this matchup with Alizhan is so fascinating, because if there's anyone who can test that theory, okay, the theory of Vitaly being unhookable, it's going to be Alizhan, all right? So let's look at Alizhan in his last match with Artem Morozov, okay? And let me just throw this out there. This match impressed the hell out of me, not because Alizhan won, okay, but because of how he won. Morozov is not somebody who you just bully at the table, okay? He's one of the strongest left-handed pullers in the world, and once he gets comfortable, he is extremely hard to move, okay? We saw this with Hermes, okay? Now, granted, that wasn't on the left, but but against Alizhan, he never got comfortable, and that was partly because Alizhan didn't let him get comfortable. All right. From the very first go, Alizhan was completely committed. There was no feeling out. There was no hesitation, no build. Okay, he just attacked immediately. And let's take a look. Let's take a look. This is round one. Okay, we're in the strap. And you can see, I mean, even the setup, Vitaly or Alizhan looks so comfortable. I mean, everything just looks in line. He looks so comfortable. His hand looks great. And so we start, and this is slowed down. Boom. He gets that cup secured. And now if you it's not just the hand, okay? It's the shoulder, it's the back, and it's the whole body connectivity. He looks great. Boom. Easy. Morozov still thinks that he's in the match. Alizhan's like, bro, I've already won. So, and he's not trying to outpost. He's not trying to do anything. He's completely in his own element. Okay, he's not trying to play some long leverage battle. He's shortening the match. Okay, he wants to drag you into the lane where his cup and his shoulder and his side pressure all start working together, and that's the danger of Alizhan, is once he gets connected, the match stops being loose. Okay, it becomes heavy, it becomes tight, it becomes suffocating. And that's exactly what happened here against Morozov. Morozov never got room to breathe. In the rounds after the first, it was just one after another. Here's round two. Even out of the straps, once he gets that full body connection, just takes you straight to the pad. But this is where we have to be fair. Alizhan is not untouchable whenever it comes to the left. Okay, we've seen his wrist challenged before. Cody Merritt gave him real problems whenever he kept that neutral pronated hand and refused to let Alizhan fully secure the curl off the go. Okay, and this matters. All right, this matters, because if Cody could challenge Alizhan's wrist in certain positions, then what happens when the person doing it is Vitaly? Okay, a bigger hand, a longer lever, more back pressure, more rise, okay, more pronation. That's the case for Vitaly, and it's a very real case, let me tell you. So let's take a look at this round with Cody Merritt. And boom, go. Cody comes with that back pressure. He's pretty connected. Let me get my lines. With that pronation, and Alizhan is pretty palm up here. Pretty palm up. And he struggles. But then he gets that connection that I think that we're going to see. He had a little bit of a problem here. He hits and he gets a little bit separated, and then he has to come back in, find his connection once again, and he eventually gets the win. So here's the case for Vitaly. If Vitaly wins the rise early, Alizhan may not get the connection he wants. If Vitaly keeps his pronation locked, Alizhan may struggle to fully curl him in. If Vitaly keeps the match outside of Alizhan's power lane, then it could get ugly for Alizhan. But I think there's one thing I think Vitaly cannot afford to do, and that is just blast sideways and hope for the best. Because if Vitaly goes sideways before he wins the hand, that will give Alizhan the connection that he wants. And against Alizhan, side pressure without hand control is dangerous, okay? And that might be an understatement. Vitaly needs the rise first, the pronation first, the height first, and then side pressure. Because if he goes sideways and fails to crack Alizhan's wrist, Alizhan can start curling him in, and he's not going to get that back. So once Alizhan gets that hook, then it's a different match. And for Alizhan, I think the path is simple, but pretty difficult. He has to stop the climb. Okay, he's got to get enough cup to keep Vitaly from escaping, and he has to connect his shoulder and back before Vitaly turns the match into a leverage problem for him. So the strap will be huge here. Okay, outside of the straps, Vitaly's length and hand control are quite the nightmare. That long hand and the high posting pressure, the pronation. Okay, it's a pretty horrible puzzle for anyone who's across the table from him. But inside the straps, that's where Alizhan gets his best chance, because the strap gives him connection, and it's a reoccurring theme. It's connection for Alizhan. Where, you know, Vitaly wants the distance, Alizhan wants the contact. Vitaly wants you extended, Alizhan wants you trapped. So that's the whole war. And to me, this match has two different phases. Okay, phase one is Vitaly's world. Open hand, height, rise, pronation, separation, everything that makes Vitaly terrifying. That's where he feels untouchable. But phase two, complete Alizhan's world. Cup, shoulder, connection, side pressure, the short range, suffocating inside lane where every inch just becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. That's where Alizhan becomes terrifying. And the question is not whether Alizhan is stronger than Vitaly everywhere. Okay, he doesn't have to be. The question is can Alizhan survive Vitaly's first wave long enough to drag the match into phase two? Okay, because Vitaly's a sniper, all right? He wants that range. He wants that distance. He wants to pick you apart before you get close. And Alizhan is like a clinch fighter, okay? He's trying to close that distance. He wants to get chest to chest, all right, and make that match ugly. So if Vitaly keeps the range, I think he can dominate. But, yeah, if Alizhan closes that distance, everything changes. So to me, the match comes down to that. Does Alizhan get the cup before Vitaly gets the climb? And if Vitaly gets the height from the very first hit, he has every chance to remind us why he's the left-handed king. All right, but if Alizhan gets inside, and I hope he does, and he gets that strap, and he gets that shoulder behind, he's going to drag Vitaly into a match, and it's going to be Morozov all over again. He's just going to go bang. So that's why I'm picking Alizhan for this. I think Alizhan is a completely different puller than, well, maybe not a completely different puller, but I think he's a lot stronger than whenever he fought Cody Merritt, and I think he learned a thing or two. So this is not an easy match, and it's going to be an ugly fight. I think that my official prediction will be Alizhan Muratov 4-1, and we are going to witness a changing of the guard whenever it comes to the number one left-handed puller in the world, and that will be Alizhan Muratov. See you guys then.